financial podcast, YouTube. We get to do live interviews or interviews that we are recording it live, but you'll get it later. But we get to interview people all the time, and it's a lot of fun, right? And actually, here's the thing: I get pitched all the time for people to be on our show, and not everybody gets to be on our show, unfortunately. So if you're asking to be on our show, we're not going to have just anybody, but there are people as I talk to friends and as I talk to people who are very similar to us or in similar fields that I really want to interview. They have a different perspective than us, or just a different way of thinking, but also very similar way of thinking. And here's the fun part. Today I'm interviewing Mike Grimm, and if you have watched our channel for any length of time, you know that there was somebody else named Angie Grimm that we interviewed about a year ago, talking about college planning. Now, college planning and all of this is really important to what we do. Everything interconnects. And also, what's interesting is today I'm not interviewing Angie, I'm interviewing her husband. And if you know anything about us, we are a married couple, Amanda and I, and married for 17 years. And we're doing business together. So I'm sure that we're going to talk a lot about doing business as a couple and how that works and all that. But I'm not going to talk about that so much, but we are going to talk a lot about Mike and what his focus is. So, Mike is a president and founder of Federal Employee Benefits Professionals. He's also the lead federal benefits professional. He is responsible for developing and creating training material for federal employees and agency, and he specializes in federal employee retirement benefits training and coordinating agency sponsored and public seminars. Now, the reason I like to have him on is because I work with a lot of federal and people in that world. Like, I have a lot of people that are in the military that are clients of ours. I have a lot of people who work as post office employees, and I have a lot of clients that are police, right? So there's a lot of that there. And so what I loved about this is before starting his agency, right? He was a National Nuclear Security Administration. He worked for them. He probably has all this private clearance and things that he knows about that he can't tell us about, but maybe we'll push him a little bit. But now he does some private clearance with his clients, right, to help them not blow up their finances. I bet. So anyway, here's Mike Grimm. I could keep going with his accolades, whatever you call it. But we're not going to go there. We're just going to get Mike in here. So Mike, thanks for joining us. Really, you were what is a National Nuclear Security Administration. That means you made sure no one hit the button. Is that what your job was?
Not exactly. Yeah, Brandon, great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, no, that position was a job of the federal government. It was a part of the Department of Energy, and our main responsibility was the safe transport of nuclear weapons across the country. So to make sure it got from the Department of Energy facilities into the hands of our military, and they're the ones that kind of watch and make sure no one touches the button.
But you made sure no one grabbed the truck or something. You watch all those like crazy movies, and you're like, oh look, you know, I, I, you made sure it was still safe. I'm sure. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep, that was a good job. Worked with a lot of good folks in that agency.
yeah. So how did you go from protecting nuclear weapons to protecting finances? Like, how is that related, and what have you seen as similar and different?
Yeah. So my main thing is I've always had an interest in personal finance, and I've always believed it's critical to know how to budget, how to be a good steward of your finances, and likewise, I always believed it was critical to make sure that when it's time to retire and it's time to, I just believe personal responsibility, people really should be taking care of themselves
Mhm.
and not so much having others do that for us. And so while as a Fed, I offered, personal finance classes to guys as just an option if they wanted to learn about it. I did a lot of travel with folks where we'd be in vehicles for many hours. And so a lot of good conversation was born out of that travel. And money always comes up, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
always, everyone's talking about money. And so, I would just chime in and offer maybe a different perspective than what, the kind of conventional wisdom on personal finances and et cetera are. So,
yeah,
um, and then the last thing is as I started transitioning towards my retirement, I saw a lot of areas where federal employees could get it wrong. There's a bunch of decisions federal employees need to be aware of, and some of those decisions are irrevocable. And so if you make the wrong decision or start planning in the wrong vein, it can really start to affect you, down the road. So I had learned from others that as they went through the retirement process, they didn't do it so well. And they thought they could retire on their federal employee retirement system pension. And
yeah,
that was going to be enough.
yeah.
And they didn't take into consideration a lot of other things after that. And so that's what really got me involved. And I enjoy still being connected to federal employees. I get a chance to walk alongside them and help them through their processes in retirement.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if you're joining, here's the fun thing, Mike. We are live on YouTube. I accidentally hit the live button instead of the record button. So thanks whoever's watching on YouTube. The title says May Simber and Your Money. It is not May, and we are not talking about that. We are going to re-edit it, but I never changed it. We are talking about, you know, being a federal employee and how to build a good foundation with your finances. Anyway, this is fun because now we are literally live doing it. And thanks to whoever's watching. Put a comment there. Let me know you're here, and love to hear what questions you have. So, as you work with federal employees, what are some of the biggest what's something that's really unique about them, and what is one of the biggest hurdles that you see?
Yeah. So what I think is unique about working with federal employees is I find that despite maybe some common misperceptions by the general public out there, I believe federal employees are patriotic in the sense that they do want to serve their country.
Mhm.
They serve in a variety of different ways, right? A lot of people think about just military, and just a quick point of clarification: military, while they are supported by the federal government, are not technically federal employees. They have their own uniformed services side of the things, but so federal employees, they have steady, predictable employment. There are occasional the risk of a furlough or a layoff due to some congressional issues where they can't meet the budgets, et cetera.
Mhm.
But that's pretty rare. I think the other thing unique about feds is that they have a lot of career progression, a lot of training opportunities, a lot of personal development opportunities, and so. And then probably the most unique thing about them is they have a fantastic benefits package while employed. Um,
Gotcha.
those that are dedicated to that process over time, if they stick out their time, continue doing the job, they're almost guaranteed a pay raise every year. Not, I shouldn't say guaranteed, but there were a few years in the 2000s where there were 0% pay raises, but
Yeah.
normally Congress votes them in a pay raise each year. And so that also carries over into retirement for them. One of the concerns, though, is I think that some federal employees have a false sense of security that their paycheck will never stop.
Yeah.
And while that's mostly true, sometimes things like an injury comes along or dealing with workers' compensation, and now they're moved into a different category and their pay is affected. I always ask federal employees, what's your backup plan in case of a shutdown? Because
Yeah.
most federal employees don't have liquid money. Their money is tied up in their defined contribution plan and their defined benefits plan. And so they can't go in and take money out of their thrift savings program, right, without some penalties. And,
Yeah.
now we're talking about loans and stuff like that. So I think sometimes what's unique about them is they believe they're financially secure, but
Yeah.
we all have issues, right? If we don't have liquidity, use control of our money.
Yeah, I think that's as I've talked to, and again, we have clients that are, you know, police officers. Is police officer federal or, yeah? What would constitute a federal employee? How would I know
Yeah,
that?
that's a good question. So when you think of government, it's really just kind of back to the quick civics lessons. You have various levels of public
Mhm.
service. You have the federal, state, county, and your local city or municipality. So
Yeah.
most police officers that we think about are typically your city or police officers. You have deputies in the county sheriff's departments, but there are also federal police officers. They serve in different areas, federal agents, more likely. So, but yeah, if you're working with somebody, you just kind of want to verify what level of government they do work for.
I think that makes it even more complicated as being a specialist for federal employees or in, I don't know, different sectors, because you think about state versus federal and taxes and the different programs that have different rules associated. And being a specialist in that area, you kind of know, which I have to be a generalist on some of that. And then I have to ask, what's the paperwork say? And
Mhm.
really do a deep dive. And it's really hard to figure out, the nuances of each program. Um, and then again, knowing that sometimes they are the last ones that really have a pension or something along those lines. And when you hear somebody who's like worked for um, the government for 20 years, usually they're more stable, or they think they're more stable than somebody who worked at Amazon, for example, or something.
Mhm.
Um, Still a great job, maybe, but they don't have the foundation in place. So, what are some of the pillars of a federal employee's retirement? What are some of the things that you see as the main thing that they need, and what are they also missing?
Yeah, sure. So federal employees are divided up kind of into two main categories. And so one is the civil service retirement system, and those are for federal employees that were hired before 1984. There aren't too many of those federal employees left. There's approximately a little less than 3% of the federal workforce is a CSRS employee. And so, the CSRS is a defined benefit plan. It does provide them a lifelong annuity and a pension. A lot of people don't realize that lifelong pension is technically an annuity from the government,
Yeah.
payable till the day they die. The CSRS employees have just really two main pillars, and that is the defined benefit plan through the federal government. And then the second one is that they have the option to contribute to their thrift savings plan. And so a thrift savings plan is kind of the equivalent of a 401k for government employees. It's a defined contribution plan. Civil service retirement employees, they can operate in that. However, they don't get matching funds from the federal government in that regard.
Yeah.
The good side for them is they do get a defined benefit plan. The way it was written into law, they can contribute, and the government contributes a bigger portion to them than they do our second set of employees that I'll talk about. So the second group are most of the employees, probably 97%, are in the federal employee retirement system, and that's the acronym is FERS for that. I apologize, there's so many acronyms in the federal government. But so their three main pillars is they have a defined benefit plan. Again, that provides a lifelong annuity payment. The second pillar for them is the thrift savings plan. That's a defined contribution plan. And that's not managed by the federal government. It is administered by the Federal Retirement Thrift Savings Board. A lot of federal employees don't realize that. And then the third thing is they receive Social Security benefits. Okay. And of course, that's administered by the Social Security Administration. So those are the main pillars for them. I think it is worth noting that the SERS employees that I talked about a little bit earlier, they don't get Social Security. And so that their defined benefit plan is set up so that they get a little bit more on that end, but they don't receive the Social Security benefit on that. So those are the main pillars of how a federal employee is going to be set up for retirement. And we really have to talk about those three things because they're all interconnected for a FERS employee. And right, so when they're talking about what is retirement going to look like, how are these streams, the distribution of these streams of income come in, and what are the upsides and what are the consequences? What are some of the potholes? And that's certainly what I take them through with a software program and show them exactly what a retirement can look like for them.
Gotcha. And how do you? I know you guys also think about like the federal employees, but also college planning is something that you guys specialize in. And the thing is, for me, I'm like, I was in the military. I was part of that. I just didn't do 20 years. I'm more of an entrepreneur, business owner. And then when I was talking to your wife, Angie, I was like, I don't even know if I'm a good student, but I think that sometimes understanding the person that probably goes to college does the things, usually they go into those kind of stable jobs, right? It's a different mindset of thinking. So as you guys are working together, how are you able to piece out and show them their problem of, hey, you're missing this part. You might have a good pension, but you forgot about this part. How do you balance those out?
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned my wife Angie, and what is really unique about our situation, working as a couple together. We're co-owners in this business together, and so what's really unique about that is my specialty is making sure the federal employees understand the retirement system, and working through a process that we take care of that at many stages of their career, not just right up leading up to retirement, right? And what's again unique about us is once I've done that, I transfer that and sit in on the same meetings. But now Angie, with all of her financial background experience and understanding that part of it, she's the one that's really able to take them through and walk them through the next steps. How do we help them with the distributions of their TSP? How do we make sure that their income streams are coming in and predictable? And look at some of the things too. We don't necessarily plan in the conventional mindset of where everything's going to be risked in the stock market, right? We're talking about a different set of people here that are used to annuities. They're used to an income stream, and so we try to help see if we can find another secure strategy for them in retirement.
I think that's, again, you said they're used to annuities or pensions. And a lot of times we say how horrible annuities are, how they are the worst thing ever. Yet what our foundation is built on, really, on finances, I see a lot of people who are living off of Social Security or living off of, they set up a good pension. And so we want to build a good, solid foundation, even more solid than just Social Security or pension or building other assets. So what are, as you guys, I'm going to link her video here. Let me grab it here. But if you are, I'm going to put it here in the note side. But if you want to learn more about combating college costs, check out her episode, because I believe, I mean, literally, college cost is going up like crazy. And I don't know, she had some really interesting things to say about even taking loans, the federal loans and all that fun stuff that I'm like, that's really powerful stuff. So let me put that in here in the chat. And I just lost it, but it's here somewhere. Anyway, I'll put that in the chat later for you guys to check out. But how are you guys different? What is different, and why would they work with you as opposed to, their HR person?
Yeah, good question. So one of the very first things a federal employee is going to encounter when they decide, it's time to start looking at retirement is they're going to work with their agency benefit specialist. And those folks are critical. They are the kind of the gatekeeper, so to speak, that says, well, submit your paperwork. And as you submit things, you have a lot of choices to make. Again, I mentioned some of those are irrevocable. And they will walk you through and maybe explain some of the pros and cons a little bit. But what the federal benefits specialist they're not trained to do, right, is talk about personal finances. And so while they may be able to connect the dots to say, well, here are the options that are available and I can explain them, they're not really so good at, and nor should they be, to say, well, here's what you should do. Here's how I think this would work for you. Let's look at this choice you make 10, 20, 30 years into life down the road. And so that's where I believe someone in my field can really come in, bridge that gap, and help people not make some critical mistakes. There's certainly no shortage of financial professionals out there that are working with high net individuals. They serve business owners, executives, etc. But I think a lot of federal and postal employees, they've come to the painful realization that there's nobody or not many people out there that can answer their questions in a very specific way. I've lived that life. I've retired as a federal employee. I have firsthand experience with that. And so I truly understand the complexities that they're dealing with and what that means to them working that entire career and hoping this would all work out. So at Federal Employee Benefits Professionals, we specifically specialize in that. We help them maximize their plans, prepare them for retirement. And equally important, we help them avoid, like I said, potentially devastating mistakes, so they don't make the wrong election when it comes time for retirement.
I think that's, again, as we've worked with, Amanda's has a client that's a postal worker, and really getting that deep dive on everything. And I think we've set up multiple policies. He was doing well, but we just helped him to do better, and without taking any unnecessary risk, which is really powerful. Is not to put it all in the Wall Street or the stock market and hope and pray. And I know you guys aren't the hope and pray type either. You want to build some good foundations. How have you seen the banking yourself method amplify, or even other annuities amplify what they're already doing? Because you've helped them maybe figure out when to elect certain pieces. When do you say, hey, maybe you should do a whole life insurance? I know you got a term policy to work, but maybe you should consider this. When do you kind of bring that in, and how do you bring it?
Yeah, excellent question. And I think what again, federal employees have such a holistic, comprehensive system in the retirement and their benefits. Their federal employee health benefits transfer into retirement. Their federal employee group life insurance, like you mentioned, a term insurance, that transfers into retirement. The health benefits are fantastic. I recommend all federal employees to make sure before they retire that they're set up in the right way so they don't lose those benefits in retirement. But one of the two main areas that I talk about federal employees with to show them possibly where whole life insurance or an annuity of some type can pay off for them is in their federal employee group life insurance. It's called FEGLI. I often joke that FEGLI is the most expensive life insurance on the planet because every time an employee gets a pay raise while they're employed, their insurance costs go up. As they age every 5 years, their insurance costs go up. And then especially in retirement, they hit a point of no return. And so it depends, but sometimes that's in that between the ages of 65 and 70, where their premiums can actually be thousands of dollars a month just for their term life insurance still. And so the first thing, Brandon, is I got to educate the employees, right? Educate them in terms of what whole life is. Educate them in terms of what they've heard from, some of the other financial pundits out there explaining why it's terrible and they shouldn't ever do it. So education is key in that regard, because as you know, we only work with certain insurance companies, right? That they don't play by some of the rules of the conventional wisdom. They do things very differently, and they can really help cash value grow and make that money useful to a retiree. The second thing is their thrift savings plan. When they retire, they have options to take distributions from that. And they no longer get to contribute anymore once they retire. They can still move money around within their funds in the TSP. But so what we talk about is looking at a distribution plan that helps them. And a lot of times, some of those distribution plans that gives them an option to roll over money and maybe move some of that away from the stock market, right? Move it away from risk. They're in retirement now. It's some people think, you have money to save and you have money to invest. Well, what do we most likely have money to do in retirement? Maybe a little both, but we tend to believe more of the saving side. And so we talk to clients about that to see how can we transition TSP and to make it a more safe, reliable, strategic method of taking distributions down the road, maybe through a different method than the stock market.
Gotcha. And that's probably where maybe you do some of it into like a properly designed life insurance. Again, people are saying, "Oh, I hate life insurance. It costs too much." But whenever this is the thing I think about, those term policies cost less the younger you are. Of course, the government wants to theoretically balance their books, right? So they're going to charge you more as you age because you're more likely to die, right? That's kind of the way it goes. So we want to think about that early, build a good like emergency fund through a policy if that's possible, and being able to then make sure that your family is set regardless of when you die, and not if you die, when you die. Because I still talk to clients that are like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And again, the one of the things I've thought about is insurance companies are still in the business, even great insurance companies are in the business of making money, right? So they're going to still sell term insurance and other products that are not necessarily as helpful for the client because it's a moneymaker kind of a thing. And so we want to think about that and make sure that we work with people that are looking out for our interests, not theirs, right? How do we best position that? And then probably, I bet you do a few annuities too. So if they've left their job, they might be getting a buyout of some sort, or somebody saying, "Hey, you're now leaving. How about you get this amount and we'll take you off the payroll?" Does that happen a lot with federal employees where they all of a sudden get a letter saying, "You can take all this out, get this money now, or we can start terminating"? Does that happen a lot for you?
Yeah, that doesn't happen that frequently. I have not run across that much myself in terms of dealing with my clients. It can happen depending upon what agency you happen to work for. So they'll have some buyouts where somebody in retirement trying to refresh their workforce a little bit or whatever. And so again, and it's still just a discussion about what works best for them when that happens. Of course, age factors into that in terms of when they're able to withdraw some of their out of their TSP without penalties, et cetera. But yeah, in certainly looking at that, we can look at a couple different options for an employee in that situation.
I think the main thing is to have that conversation, run the numbers when it comes to Social Security, when it comes to pension, when to take on income or turn on your Social Security. How does that affect their taxes? All of those things in life insurance, whole life insurance, annuities have a part to play, but really it's a comprehensive strategy. And how do we help make sure both you and your family get to dead without any risk, and leave a legacy where we're not leaving money on the table or giving it. We all love to work for the government, maybe at least in these guys, right? But I don't want to give them more money because I mismanage money. And I think you guys probably talk about taxes quite a bit as well.
Absolutely.
What are some closing thoughts? I know we're running on 30 minutes here. Closing thoughts that you would say, hey, I really want to make sure that these guys get this. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I think one of the main things for federal employees is to understand. I've talked with some people in certain agencies. They have a fantastic relationship with their benefits specialists, and their training personnel schedule regular training for federal employees to learn more about their benefits and how to prepare for retirement. I've run across other agencies that don't do such a good job of that. And so what I would suggest for listeners that are federal employees is I recommend that you have an early career understanding of your federal employee benefits. So attempt to attend training that helps you as an early career employee. Do the same thing as a mid-career employee. And then certainly as you get later in your career closer to retirement, make sure you reach out to your agency to see if they can provide you some training. Some agencies, I again mentioned, don't do that, Brandon. And so that's where I come in. I like to be able to help folks. I offer a complimentary benefits analysis that takes a look at all of their options in retirement, takes a look at how they can optimize and maximize their planning potential today, even if you just started as a federal employee. And so what this will do is give them a free look at what things can look like for them, and be happy to suggest areas where we can improve or optimize, and see if there's some of the things we can do for them. I always believe the sooner you learn, the more prepared you are to navigate the process and step around the landmines that you don't even see yet.
How do you, going back to this, I just talked to another postal worker, I think it was a couple days ago, and they are putting money into their retirement account that they said, I'll just work. I got 11 more years left. And then I'll be fine as far as income. But they don't know what that looks like. So how do you navigate, or do you help them just say, hey, this is how you read a statement? Because I feel like sometimes those statements, all financial statements are like reading Greek. You have to have a new language. So how do you help them learn the language of balance sheets? And they are used to delivering mail, not reading financial.
Right. It's very interesting. You mentioned postal pay stubs. They are difficult to read, and so we sit down with them and we take a pay stub. We show them what all the little codes mean in there. We decipher that for them, and then we take that and put that into a readable format for them that shows, well, here's what's happening today, but here's what's going to happen when retirement starts. And you mentioned a good point here. The postal employee you're talking about, he didn't know what his pension was going to look like. He wasn't exactly sure. We can get that very close to what the actual number would be, as long as we have accurate information back from the employee. The Office of Personnel Management handles that in the retirement process, but we can get a step ahead of that with good information from the employee and help them have a very good idea of what that full retirement picture would look like, with all these things that are touching together: TSP, their pension, and Social Security. And then again, any other additional income stream we can set up through whole life or annuities.
Yeah, I think that's really important. A lot of times, again, clients and people just don't know. They're just like, all right, but how does this all interconnect, right? Interconnect at the end is what we need to figure out. Not just throwing a rock here, doing a rock here, thinking and hope and pray is not a strategy. I've said this many times on here, but build a plan, work with somebody that understands you and your what you want to accomplish. It's all about the goals. And even when you signed up to be a postal worker or garbage person or whatever is that there, you probably did it because of the benefits package. Understand what those benefit packages can do and where it costs you, and find somebody that can help you along those ways here. So I have his website, federalemployeebenefitsprofessionals.com. I mean, that's pretty easy to remember. And so go here and check this out. Get join and connect with him. If you want to do me to connect you guys with him, I don't know, whatever. But you can go straight to him and his lovely wife here. And there's a lot of resources here. And I heard you also, there we go, Mike and Angie. I will tell you, so just so you know how connected we are, Angie works for the part of the firm that is kind of like our grandparents in this industry.
Yeah.
So she kind of works with her grandparents, mentors. Mark Willis is our mentor, but he got trained by somebody else, and that's who she works with. So check this out, and then let's see, where's that book? I know we have a new book that just got released. Let's see, where is that at? I need to click on the link here. I don't know, is it? Where's the book at? Maybe you can get a copy of your book.
Yeah. So when folks get on the website, there'll be a pop-up that shows it. It may not show up on this format, but a pop-up will show, and just give me a little bit of contact information so I know where to get the book to. And the book is called Retire Confident as a Federal Employee. I wrote it specifically for federal employees that walks them through all of their federal benefits and some strategies in terms of how to maximize that. And I think it will help federal employees to understand their benefits package more holistically. Because you're right, Brandon, all the money in those benefits, they all touch. They may not touch directly. Some of it's linear, but others of that money touches directly. And we have to figure out how to maximize that. So Aunt Iris, as I like to call her, the IRS, doesn't get the biggest grab of that.
Yeah. Or theirs. Theirs is what I like to call it. The IRS.
Yeah.
And another thing I've thought about with some of this is they might be contributing a lot to their 401ks, pensions, whatever, but then their consumer debt is way high, right? And so you want to think about it's all in one wallet. So how do we build a comprehensive plan to take care of things currently and in the future, both immediate and long term? You know, the kids' college, that's a very big expense. So cool. Well, that's a wrap for me today. How can people find you? I know, go to this website. Anything else you want to leave here?
Sure. They can just hit that red contact button right there, and that will get them to my calendar if they'd like to set up a 15-minute consultation. And that's where we just see, are we a good fit? We talk for a little bit and just see if there's maybe one way I can help you or other ways. And the best thing about that is I'd like to get a feel for who I'm working with and to make sure that we're a good fit. So, and then the other way is they could purchase the book on Amazon if they like, or you can get a complimentary copy from me if you just go to my website. So, those are the main ways to get a hold of me.
Here's the thing, guys. You can go and pay $20, and Amazon gets half of it, you know, or you can go here, hit contact, get a book, and tell them Brandon sent you, and you know, then we'll go from there, right?
Absolutely.
So, awesome. Well, thanks, Mike, for being here. I'm going to remove this page here. Thanks for being here and being a part of this live video that's titled Maysember and Your Money, which is not Maysember and Your Money. You know, federal employees. So if you're a federal employee, really, if you want to connect with people that understand that, I'd say we understand a bit, not as much as you, but we do have people in our corner as we have questions. I've reached out before in the past on these kind of things. So, cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Mike, and thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with a federal employee that you, well, all of them. They all need to have a good foundation, and maybe they think they have it all together, but they need a second opinion. I think it's important to have that. So, you guys have a great day, and don't forget, live long and